Hello everyone, I'm giving a Pecha Kucha presentation, and Pecha Kucha is simply a storytelling format where a presenter will show 20 slides for 20 seconds of commentary each slide. It was created by architects in Tokyo to prevent that phenomenon that we've all come to know as death by PowerPoint. At a Pecha Kucha night, which has become a global phenomenon, individuals will share personal presentations about their work or something that they're passionate about, and Pecha Kucha simply means chit-chat in Japanese. So I decided to do my Pecha Kucha presentation on something that I'm very passionate about, which is how to encourage youth, especially girls, to pursue STEM careers. And after thinking about this issue for many years, and now that I have my own daughter, it's even more important to consider what I personally can do to improve equity, diversity, and inclusion in STEM fields. And we do a lot of outreach on this issue here at Cape Breton University through Island Wise. So it's important to put the history of women in science into perspective. And one of the most distinguished international awards, the Nobel Prize, has been given out 603 times to 962 different Nobel laureates since 1901. But only 57 of those laureates were female, which equates to just under 6%. And then, if you narrow it down even further to prizes just in STEM fields, that percentage is even lower, at 3%. So, to research the history of women in science a little bit further, it became apparent to me that the most common traits among successful women in science were grit, resilience, and determination. And most successful women in science overcame incredible challenges in their pursuit for something that they were passionate about, which actually defines grit. And thankfully, things have been changing over the past few hundred years, but there are still many hurdles that women have to face in STEM careers. So, when I give outreach presentations to inspire young girls through Island Wise workshops, I often start with some examples of female scientists who overcame incredible challenges to pursue their science career. For example, Florence Bascom. In the 1800s, while she was pursuing her PhD, and she was the first woman to receive a PhD from Johns Hopkins University, she was actually forced to take her classes behind a screen so she wouldn't distract any of her male classmates. Can you imagine? And another inspirational woman in STEM is Lise Mightner, who co-discovered the workings of nuclear fission. Her lifelong collaborator, featured here as well, Otto Hahn, was awarded a Nobel Prize without Lise in 1944. At the start of her career, Lise was actually unpaid, and she wasn't even allowed in the labs upstairs or even the bathroom in the building. She had to run to the lobby of a hotel down the street to use the bathroom in between experiments. Can you imagine? And Barbara McClintock, a famous geneticist, was the first person who made a complete genetic map of corn, and she discovered genetic transposons. But at the University of Missouri in 1936, she was considered a troublemaker for always wearing pants and for working late with students. The dean threatened to fire her if she ever got married or if her male research collaborator left the university. Can you imagine? So to think about what's going on today, there have been improvements. And the thing about STEM careers is that STEM job growth is outpacing the rest of the economy by about 300%. 80% of all jobs in the next decade will require technology skills, and that's probably changed even more so because of the pandemic. Women make up half of the current workforce, but it's important to note that they fill less than 25% of STEM jobs, and it's even less in the highest paying STEM jobs like engineering. And only 14% of teenage girls want to become a scientist. So something's happening in those early, very transformative years to discourage them to go into science. So what can we do? What could I do? So after years of thinking about this and running workshops with girls, especially about grit and resilience and determination, I decided to create a board game it's called STEMS because of the acronym STEM, and also because the board is designed in the shape of a tree, and it's played much like snakes and ladders or chutes and ladders, and the stems are the things that link the path to enable players to move faster along the board, or to be shuttled backwards down the path. So STEM is a game that introduces players to what it is like to pursue a career in the field of science, technology, engineering, or math. It teaches them about successes and setbacks along the way to becoming a professional scientist, and how grit and determination can help them advance despite the challenges that might be encountered. So I hired a local artist to help me transcribe what was going on in my head to get this beautiful artistic board, and she also created woodland creatures to help introduce the game through the instructions. We have Olivia, the engineer, we had Dr. Fox on the previous slide, and we have Maskey, the mathematician. So to advance, instead of rolling a dice or spinning a wheel, there are playing cards that enable players to go forward if it's, for example, something like an award or a research grant. They might have to reverse a certain number of squares. For example, their research manuscript is rejected from publication. Or there may be a card that we call grit cards, and despite the challenge, they actually overcome it and are able to move forward. There are also trivia questions that teach about the history of science, and there is a bit of a bias towards successful women in science, but there are questions that will appeal to all genders and all ages as well. In addition, there are What Would You Do cards, which give players an opportunity to test their self-confidence, to test their grit and resilience and determination by posing scenarios, and they get a chance to discuss it with other players. So finally, thinking about the gender distribution here in Canada, it is pretty much a 50-50 split. So on either side, it's 50% male, 50% female. If we think about the workforce, women make up 50% of the workforce, but only 25% of STEM professions. And what I'd leave you with to think about is what critical discoveries are going to be missed in the future, or are considered missed opportunities because women are not going into STEM, or they're not being retained in the STEM careers. So if women didn't have chances in the past to go into education or pursue science careers, maybe today we wouldn't have windshield wipers, car heaters, Kevlar, or liquid paper, and many other inventions by women in science. So pre-order your copy of STEMS today by reaching out to me, and it's great for classes, youth groups, or even family game nights.